So a new product that we came out with back in November of this last year in 2011 is not a new product to the market in the fact that it's not a new drug. Okay, it's something that's been out there, but what it is the first and only FDA-approved product for the treatment of horses with Cushings, and that's Persen. Okay, just to give a little bit of what is PPID, so Persen, forward thinking of PPID. So we talk about PPID, we used to talk about Cushings. I'm going to use those intermittently together. They mean the same thing, Cushings and PPID. Okay, somewhere along the line we just don't have enough acronyms out there that we had to add one more. Okay, so we couldn't call it Cushings anymore. We wanted to call it PPID, which is the pituitary pars intermedia dysfunction. Okay, PPID, I'll just call it that. It's a lot easier for me to say and for you to understand. But basically what it's talking about at this point is where in the brain that this problem starts and is created from. Okay, and that's how we got to PPID, but otherwise known as equine Cushing's disease. It's one of the most common, if not the most common, problem in our older horses and endocrine disease in horses in older age. So how does it occur? Okay. Don't get too carried away in these charts right here as far as what we see here, but basically what we're talking about is the brain of the horse. Okay, and this is a little bit more close up on the pituitary of that particular horse. Okay? So pituitary, PPID is controlled by neurons which secrete dopamine. Okay, that's inside the brain, dopamine in the pituitary. Neurons undergo chronic damage with aging. Guess what? We're going to fall apart as we get older. Right? I know. Hard to believe. Right? There's only like a handful left, I think, out here that don't know what we're talking about yet. So as we get a little bit older, things start to deteriorate for us. And neurons are part of that. So as neurons are lost, pars intermedia is less inhibited. So part of the pituitary is starting to break down. Okay, the dopamine and the inhibin and the markers and the holders for these things start to deteriorate. That's a problem. We know it is. Cell growth occurs with the pars intermedia, and cells increase hormone secretion. So what happens is they just start pushing out more of the hormone, more of the endocrine, more of the problem, more of the dopamine receptors, and secretes ACTH, which stimulates the adrenal gland to produce cortisol. What? Hey, there's a problem up here, okay? One thing's overloading the other. Does that help you a little bit, make a more understanding of this? We're getting too much secretion of what we call ACTH, and that's actually what we'll talk about a little bit further on. That's what we're testing for, is ACTH. Okay? So we're getting an overload of ACTH by the pituitary. And if you think this is difficult, try having about 30 of these different SKUs like this, and I have to learn all of those, and I'm not veterinary. I'm a lot further down. I'm just a salesman, guys. We're the salesman. Most everybody's like way down here, right? That's why I married a smart gal, because it helped me out. Made me look better. Not to mention that there was only one way to go, and that was up. All right, so which horses suffer from PPID? Okay? The aged horses, particularly, right? There are certain breeds that seem to be a little bit more in tune to having PPID as well. But horses affect 1 in 7 of all horses and ponies over the age of 15. So 1 in 7 over the age of 15. So we know it's an older, it's a geriatric problem. Okay? Do we see it in younger horses? Yeah, we can. Is it a very common thing? Not necessarily, but it does happen in younger horses. Okay, it's more likely in geldings. Don't ask me why. We just see that that happens to be the case. When we do and look at studies, and we try to figure out why we see this disease, or where do we see this disease, or how often, seem to see it more in geldings. Don't have a real good reason to that yet. Less likely in stallions. Some breeds are more common. Your breeds like Morgan horses tend to be more common. Ponies tend to be more common. There's a few others, but overall, every horse is susceptible to it. Okay, that's really the key. And there tends to be some hereditary tendencies. Again, not really well understood. We don't really have the markers to say, hey, genetically this horse is going to produce Cushing's babies. We don't have that yet. At some point we may.